So without further ado, I'm so excited to hear from this guest. Wow, he's great for small business.
Yeah, and if you own a business, how do you maximize its value? Well, tonight on Passage to Profit, we're going to show you how it's done. So we have with us Justin.
In 54 minutes, we're going to show you. We're going to get some tips from Justin, right?
Yeah, well, we have with us Justin Goodbread, and he's going to be talking about how you can double your business's net worth in 3 to 5 years. And so, of course, we all want to hear how that's going to happen. And welcome to the show, Justin.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I was listening to the monotone and I was like, my goodness, I don't know if I can teach you how to double your net worth every 3 to 5 years in 25, 55 minutes. That's pretty hard to do. So
we'll just talk
you set a high bar for me.
Yeah, you have some great tips for small businesses and some ideas. Right?
Yeah, and I would just jump out and say, just right off the top, that if you're hungry for this kind of information, go to Justin's website. I checked it out before the show, and it was just amazing. All of the content that's on there, most of it is free, lots of great advice, information. And so if we can't get it all done in the next 53 minutes, then, go to his website and you'll get a lot more. So I found it very informative. And as a business owner, I thought it was great.
Right. So tell us about what you do.
Sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's first and foremost. I started my first company when I was 15, sold it when I was 20, started my second and third company, sold those in my 30s. So I've bought and sold and started 3 companies and sold them for a profit. So that's first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I happen to find myself in the world of Wall Street. And I got to tell you, I personally think Wall Street is the enemy for small business owners. I do. That's what I personally deal with. Now, look, we manage money for business owners through the Wall Street mechanisms, but I think that Wall Street has done us a disservice. And here's what I mean by that. I know that my capabilities and my team, which are rock stars in our company, can give me a better return than 10% of my return. I know that. I've seen our company in times past grow 100 to 200% in a given year. And several of the clients that we work with, we see that consistently where their businesses just accelerate. And so for me to take my money and throw it in the market, 100% of my money in the market and hope to get a 100% return is just irrational. Right. So to me, the Wall Street is oftentimes the enemy of small business. And I'll go further because the Wall Street types that I deal with, they'll come to me as a business owner and they'll say, hey, in order for you to reach your goals, make the money, come and let us teach you how to be wealthy. Give us your money and we'll make some money for you. I got to tell you, I want to tell them to go fly a kite. It drives me crazy when I hear that. So I started a company in 2009 called Heritage Investors. And I started a company right after that called Heritage Business Advisors, and a third company called Financially Simple. All 3 of those work to educate business owners how we as business owners can double our net worth, not our company value, our net worth every 3 to 5 years. And we can do it if we coordinate all these things together.
So Justin, when you're talking about that, improving the net worth, how much of it are we talking about managing costs versus growing sales revenue?
Oh, okay. I got you. Let's talk to this. Let's answer the question through a process. So it's a process that we walk everybody through. And I think it's really easy to understand it at this point. Richard, great question. Just like most business owners, we start off with a plan. Where do we want to be in some period of time? Now, to me, it's how do I want to exit my company? That's one of the pivotal questions I have to ask myself consistently. I know I'm going to leave my company either through death or something, death, disability, somehow or another, I'm going to leave it at some point. I'm getting older every day. So I know I'm going to leave it, but how do I want to leave it? And what do I need to be when I leave this? Can I leave it on my own terms? Could I retire, quote, from my company in 5 years? Could I do it in 10 years? Could I sell it to the employees? Could I sell it to some sort of a competitor, maybe in 5 to 10 years? So once I know where I'm going, I now have a trajectory that I can try to shoot for. Then I look at where am I at today? What is my net worth today? What is my income today? What's my asset mix? So then I have this gap, right? I know where I'm at and I know where I need to be. In order to help facilitate that particular strategy, we have to bring in a lot of different concepts. We have to deal on a personal side with tax planning, and that's a huge area that we work with a lot of professionals around the country on. We have to deal with insurance mitigation. I mean, most of us are insurance poor. We have insurance agents who sell us a bunch of crap sometimes. And so we have to deal with that. We have to deal with the risk when it comes to legal matters like contracts, like patents, things of that nature, intellectual property. We have to make sure we're protected. So that's risk management. We have to grow our assets. And I believe that the businesses that we own is often the asset which can give us the best return. Aside from that, maybe real estate is a great asset for many people across our country. And we deal with retirement funds, but we have to use those properly for tax mitigation and ultimately bridge our net worth. So if we're looking at this mix, to answer your question, Richard, I have to know where I'm at, have to know where I need to get. And then based on what starting point, it tells us where do we focus and how much energy do we need to put into the plan, whether it be grow the business, whether it be grow real estate, whether it be grow other assets, tax, whatever it is, it tells us how to do that.
So I just want to clarify for people that may not know, could you explain the difference between net worth and say a balance sheet? So
Sure.
I'm not sure people know what you're talking about with net worth.
Sure. So net worth is simple. Take everything that you own. If you were to say, I am quitting life today, I'm moving to Jamaica, man, right? I want to sell everything. What would you sell it for and how much could you get for it? That's roughly your net worth. If you were to take all your assets that you own, money in the bank, pots and pans in the house, everything, and just put it on the street and say, I'm selling it. That equates to your net worth. So it's really assets minus liabilities. A balance sheet basically gives you a statement on where your business is. It shows your assets minus liabilities of your business. So whenever we get into the balance sheet mechanisms, we often deal with that when it comes to value growth, but it's not really the focus because sometimes we don't move our balance sheet in our business because that's a tangible asset quantification. In other words, we can see it. We know how much money we have in the bank. We know how much inventory we have, whether it's bulldozers or yarn or something like that. We know how much inventory we have. But what we often don't see on the balance sheet is what's called intangible assets. And we'll talk a little bit about that today through our conversation on how we can use intangible assets to actually bolster our company's value.
Well, that's really great. So in your experience, do businesses that fail often fail because they don't have the fundamental pieces that you mentioned earlier in terms of insurance and right insurance and all the other stuff that you mentioned? Is that like a large reason for business failure, or is it other things like management?
Whenever I've been asked to come in, or our team's been asked to come in and consult with struggling businesses, I can almost draw a common thread through 3 or 4 different areas that cause a business to fail. First of all, hold your mirror up. It's the business owner, hands down. We often want to be everything in our business, right? We want to be the firefighter and the janitor and the CEO, the CFO, and everything else. We are control freaks. So first and foremost, it's oftentimes the business owner that causes the failure. Another reason for failure is because lack of cash, lack of capital. We saw that exasperated last year through COVID. We would often tell our clients to have a significant portion of cash, and they would look at us and say, that seems like too much cash. But then the ones who listen to us, man, they doubled their net worth, many of them in 1 year because of cash assets. So oftentimes they don't have enough cash.
I would say if you want to grow your business, you have to invest somehow. You have to make some change, more marketing, more efficient production, whatever it is. And you have to have cash to be able to do that, right?
Let's dissect it differently, because I think you're on the precipice of where I try to get everybody to think in a business. Okay. Business is divided into 8 areas. And if you can identify these 8 areas within your business, then you know how to fix your business. And we all, as business owners, we all don't think our business is perfect. In fact, my second book, which you can find on the Financially Simple website, is called Your Baby's Ugly, because our business is our baby. And often it sucks because we see the flaws in it. So if we can break out these 8 key areas of our own business, then we know how to fix it. We know we can almost self-diagnose, but we shouldn't. So let's talk about the 8 key areas. So first, you have planning. Very few business owners take some time and do business planning, either on the startup or on an annual basis. In fact, our company just got back from a 4-day planning retreat with our entire organization to do planning for just this calendar year. So planning is number 1. Then you go into leadership. We business owners think we're awesome leaders. Here's the problem. If we as business owners are talking down, in other words, giving our edict down to our team, and at the same time serving within our organization, then we're not the leader we need to be. We actually need to have managers or consultants who are pushing our edict out to our team. That's true leadership. So we deal with leadership. We deal with sales and marketing. Those are the next 2 areas, which are different. Sales is getting people to buy your product. Marketing is getting them to the door. if I see one area of almost every business we work in that has a problem, it's marketing. Most businesses do not understand marketing. We throw dollars at it. So sales and marketing. Then you have the next 4 areas are people and operations. So people is our team at Rockstars. I mean, are we having best in class? Could our organization, the leaders of our organization, go to the trade show? So if we're lawyers, could we go to a legal convention and have our directors of operations talk to other directors of operations at that convention and say, hey, here's why we're the best? Most of the time we can't. So we have to have rockstar team members, and we have to have, when it comes to the operational portion, we have to have efficient throughput. In other words, when a customer comes to buy our widget or our service, how fast can we get the customer through the process with the highest customer satisfaction possible and the highest profits possible? So we have operations. And then finally, the last 2 areas are finance. That involves everything from purchasing to ARs, accounts receivable, to accounts payable. And we have our risk management, which includes insurance and legal. So if you took your business and you divide it into those 8 areas, planning, leadership, sales, marketing, people, operations, finance, and legal, and you did an assessment, almost like the old SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I would almost challenge every listener, whether you're starting a business, whether you're a seasoned business, like a business pro like myself, that you can walk through those 8 areas and say, oh my goodness, here's where I'm weak at. Here's what I'm strong at. Here's what I need to focus some time on.
Yeah.
That is excellent. And I have to agree with you on marketing. And actually, Gearhart Law probably does more marketing than a lot of other law firms, which has really helped us quite a bit. And Kenya, you're a marketing expert. Do you have any comments?
Oh, I just was saying how, I agree with Justin in that, marketing is key. My question would be, what are some tips that you can give to businesses? Because, we help lead people to the water, right? How do you get people to convert? Like what are some tips you would give to business owners on the conversion piece?
Yeah, no problem. And are we talking, Kenya, specifically about marketing, or are we talking about conversion in our head thinking process? Which way are we going with this?
Well, I think a little bit of both, right? So it's like marketing, like we use that to drive people, to drive interest and awareness of a product or service, right? We have people, we push them to the action phase of the buying cycle. How can businesses then take them from the action phase of that cycle and convert them over into customers?
So great question. I know exactly where you're at now. Thank you for that question, Kenya. So the way I would approach that to answer that is start through a process mentally that I walk myself through. And that is, what am I trying to achieve in my business? What is my ultimate sale, so to speak? And that's my first book, by the way. Again, check that out on Financially Simple. What am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to grow my business to sell? Am I trying to do a lifestyle business? Because that's going to dictate how we manage marketing procedures. So once I know the outcome and then I know my weaknesses, if I dive specifically into marketing, we got to begin with who is our most profitable target market, our most profitable persona, right? So many business owners never thought about it. We look and we say, oh, I like Fred, or I like Wilma, or I like whoever. I often use the Flintstones because they're my heroes, right? We also talked about Fred and Wilma, and I really like them because they're fun to be with. But when I dive into the metrics, they make the company go broke. I mean, they're not providing they're costing too much time. They're costing too much resources. The production process is way too expensive for Fred and Wilma. So what we have to look at is who is the persona that is giving us the most profitable position, profitability coming in, not only the bottom dollars, but time management, efficiency for production management, et cetera. There's lots of metrics we can dive into. So if we understand our most profitable persona, then we got to understand, well, how do we communicate with them? How do they receive? Are they visual? Are they audible? Are they, there's several, five or six different ways we can communicate with people. How do they receive it? What do they like to shop? If you try to get a hold of Justin Goodbread and you say, hey, I want to target Justin to be a customer, then you need to know that I like to hunt and fish. I have an awesome tractor that I'm going to spend my weekends on. Every time a Bass Pro Shop comes by the interstate, I'm going to do a right-hand turn to go in there. My wife's going to be beating me over the head saying, dude, can't buy another fishing pole. That's who I am. You're going to know that I love to read books. You're going to know that pizza. Oh, my goodness. I one day had this mission in life to be sponsored by one of the national pizza chains as their spokesperson, right? I want to have a pie-athlon, which is where you like 5 million pizza combinations. If you know that about me, then you know how to speak to me. What most people do in business is we say, we look and we say, this was a really good, profitable one-time case. Let's target Fred. And when targeting Fred, we don't know anything about what made Fred buy from us, why they chose us. Did we come about as a cheap, low cost provider to them, or do they view us as a Nordstrom, a good customer centric type company? So to answer your question, Kenya, you have to always go back to what's the purpose of the company? What's the purpose of the company with you, the business owner in life? What's going to bring you the most satisfaction? Who is the person that you're going to work with the most? To me, it's business owners, people in the service industry. I love business owners, especially if they're producing less than about $40 million a year and have less than 50 employees in the company. Those are my peeps. If they're in the South and they like to hunt and fish, oh yeah, we're even greater peeps, right? So if you know who people are, then you can target them directly, knowing exactly what you're going to have to say to get them to the door, number one. Then your marketing has to converse with your sales department to make sure they're saying the exact same thing throughout the entire conversion process.
So Justin, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have an agency to help you figure all of this out, how can an individual entrepreneur get this information?
Yeah, so I would say that you're welcome to go to our website, Financially Simple. So I give away 99.99% of the information that we give our clients. In fact, if there's a topic that you don't see on the website, reach out to the team and we'll record something on it. We have on the Financially Simple podcast over 300 episodes of me teaching very detailed concepts to actually answer that, Richard. Even on the site, there's a strategic plan that you can download. It's the exact same process that I just walked. Actually, I didn't. Our team just walked through this last 4 weeks. So there's lots of resources out there. I can tell you there's not a magic pill. There's not one place you can go and get it all yourself. If we're starting a business, oftentimes we have to use sweat equity. We do. I was in business for about 6 years before I hired a consultant. And now I'm paying more. I'm actually have consultants for our own company, right? So I'm paying consultants more than I ever dreamed I would pay now 15, 20 years later in business. So I think you got to start off with self-learning, get some really good information. And then as your company grows, you can now bring in experts who can now dive into these areas and actually give you great ROI on the cost.
When I spoke to you before, Justin, you brought up something that I just thought was extremely valuable that I hadn't heard from anybody else, really. So you said your wife was worried about you going out on your own. And so you felt like you needed to have enough money to take care of the family before you started your business. Can you speak to that a little?
Whenever you start a business, and we're talking about cold start versus buying an existing business in this answer. Okay. So if you're buying a business, a little different approach. So if I were starting a business today, same thing I did years ago, I had to make sure I had enough money to survive and feed my family for 2 to 3 years. Because what happens in business is we go out and we get a little bit of traction, and quickly we start raising our level of lifestyle. The killer of a business is whenever you don't reinvest your proceeds back into the business to solidify those 8 key areas in the first 2, 3, 4 years. If we were going to be retained, which we often are by different types of companies that would come in and say, hey, I want to sell the company. Maybe they're a mergers and acquisitions company, M&A. Every single time we come in to solve a problem or do a turnaround for a company, it's the business owner made a little profit and they ripped all the revenue out of the business. They did not reinvest. And so I believe if I were starting a business today, I would have 2 to 3 years worth of savings. If you don't know, I wouldn't borrow the money from the bank. Maybe you can get a pre-inheritance from mom and dad or something of that nature, but you need to have some money set back to survive the first 2 or 3 years. I mean, think about it. If you started a business like some of our clients did in January of last year and COVID came and kicked you in the teeth, you could have put your whole dream, the dream that you wanted to have in life, whatever this business is, you could have put it in a serious position where you can never realize that dream.
Right. Or you can have a working spouse. Yeah, a little bit of leeway there. Great. So I think that's excellent advice.
Yeah, I think, that's always the balancing act. I mean, do you recommend people take out second mortgages on their house to finance it?
It depends. And that's one of those financial cop-out answers. And I get it, but it really depends. Everybody's in a different situation. Before I ever would launch a business, I would make sure that I understood what my out is. Mm-hmm. What is the exit? You know, oftentimes we'll charge hell with a water pistol trying to start a business. You know, my first business I wanted to do was to breed purple daylilies. I actually have a horticulture degree. I wanted to have purple daylilies. And before you know it, I was babysitting about 45 employees who didn't care if they drove a lawnmower in a swimming pool. They didn't care. And I lost the passion to grow these purple daylilies. What happens in business though is this. Same thing happened to me. We jump in with this idea we're going to charge hell with a water pistol, and before you know it, a hiccup happens. And now we end up being the firefighter. And here we are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years later, and we realize that, hey, I hate my job. I hate this thing. I hate this company. One of the questions that was asked to me here recently was, what is my typical day like? You know, what's my typical day like now, almost 20 years in business? I got to tell you, it's peaceful with low stress. But it didn't happen overnight. What I had to do was systematically build and remove myself from the epicenter of my business. Now, in doing so, my value grew multiplicative in nature. And now I can actually sell my company if I wanted to, right? Because no one wants to go out and buy another job. I mean, if you don't like your job, no one else is going to pay you for it. So by moving myself with this idea that, hey, I have an exit, I know where I want to be. I want to totally be out of my company in 10 years, whatever that number is for you personally. I want to start something, grow it, and leave. If that's your job, if that's what you want to do, then you can mathematically and academically build the steps. Everything's academics at that point. And so if you don't start off right, knowing where you're going to end up, then what's the Chester cat on Alice in Wonderland say? Wherever you're going, you might get there. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So you have a super duper strategic approach to planning, to thinking through, starting with the end in mind. What if you're an entrepreneur who doesn't quite think like that? And do you think that they can be successful?
Absolutely. I think America is amazing. We have 5.3 million small business owners, entrepreneurs who employ people in our country. I don't think there's one right answer to it. Here's what I would challenge you with, though. Here's some statistics that I hope burns a hole in your head, at least everybody who's listening to this podcast. 80% of businesses never sell. 80%. Only 4% of business owners will sell at the value they think their company's worth. And if you don't have a plan, you're going to wake up at age 60, 70 years old, realizing you're broke. And you're going to say, how on earth am I going to grow a business so I can sell it to bridge my net worth, or the gap that I talked about earlier? And so I'm very strategic in nature, which has led to my ability to be a multimillionaire at a very young age. I'm very strategic in nature. Mm-hmm. But if you do not have a strategy, I caution you, because you're going to realize that tempus fugit, time is fleeting, as the Latin term says. You're here today, and before you know it, you went from 30 to 40 to age 70, and now you have nothing to show for it. You had a really nice life. You lived high on the hog, as we'd say in South Georgia. You had a great life. You had nice cars and boats and big houses and nice parties, but you have a big hat with no cattle, man. You have nothing to show for it. Okay. So unless you're doing something to position you to where you're ultimately, when you leave your company, that you're going to be able to maintain your lifestyle, you're going to end up being in a position that so many clients are, that they call us and they say, hey, I'm 60 years old. I've got this company. It's doing $40 million a year in revenue. Hey, I got this company making $500,000 a year in revenue. I'm broke. I'm tired. I'm tired of chasing my tail. So my challenge to you is this: don't be part of that 4% who only sell their company. Don't be part of the 80% who work their whole life, blood, sweat, and tears, pouring into our companies, pouring into our customers, pouring into our team, our vendors, and loving on the people we have the honor and privilege to really serve. Don't be that individual who wakes up at age 60 saying, crap, been a fun ride, but I have nothing to show for it.
No. Well, we couldn't agree with you more. And I happen to be a planner too. And so I'm on board, but I'm not sure that everybody thinks that way. What makes a business sellable?
That's a simple answer. Simple answer. The business owners know we're involved. I'm overly simplifying the process, but that's what, obviously it's got to be profitable, it's got to be scalable, it's got to be transferable, it's got to be all the ables that I can write, that I mentioned in my book, The Ultimate Sale. If you want to learn how to sell a company, go buy it. You can buy it on Amazon. You can go to Financially Simple again and pick up The Ultimate Sale. But we identify all that. But if you put it all down to one line, we business owners are control freaks, myself included. We want to control everything. The problem is we're the pinch point. We're the kink in the water hose that won't let the water flow through it. So in order for it to be sold at the highest value, mind you, now you can sell anything if you have enough equipment or whatever. I'm talking about selling it with the highest value possible. You've got to remove yourself from the epicenter of the business. You've got to get yourself where this company can literally run without you. You know, I had this strategy last year, Richard, as you was asking that question, that I wanted to test out my own companies. So I took 6 weeks off. And my challenge was, as I took 6 weeks off, completely dark. I didn't want to have any communication with the company. Could the company maintain? 1, could the company grow? 2, and if they could grow, by what magnitude? I tell you, man, it was amazing. It took 4 years to build up to that point. I went away, hid in the Rocky Mountains for about 6 weeks with my family, and came back, and the company exploded while I was gone. It was like, holy cow, I'm the struggle. I'm putting myself in front of the mirror again.
So are your employees incentivized for growth, or are they just love their jobs?
Well, the both. So it depends on where they're at within organizational structure. Some people are incentivized for growth. Some people are incentivized due to key success strategies or KPIs, whatever you want to call those. Some just love the job. I believe that you grow a company where the culture is contagious, then people want to be there. I really believe that.
And then that comes from the leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes from your core values, who you are as a person. You know, you can't fake it. Who you are as a person. To me, one of the questions I was recently asked is what keeps me up at night? You know, and I think every business owner struggles with this. Something keeps us up. To me, it is, what did I do today to derail my team? What did I do today that caused a problem for the rest of the team on their mission? Because everybody knows if we did our planning properly, they know what they want to carry out. They know with their marching orders. We've got it all assigned. Everything's been set up properly with our structures and our very organized systems. But what did I do today? And that's candidly what keeps me up. It used to be 15 years ago, man, am I going to have enough money to pay people? Man, I'm tired, man. No, not once I set the systems up. I almost have a golden goose that this thing could work. And if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, please don't. But if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, the clients are good, the vendors are good, and the team is good. They can handle this.
That's great. That's a great place to be. And it probably doesn't come overnight. I mean, since you've been through the process of building successful companies in the past, you have sort of a roadmap of what you need to do. But for people who are starting out, it may take a little bit of time to get to that place.
So I would say for entrepreneurs, there used to be the entrepreneur Bible, so to speak, which was Lean Startup. I think Financially Simple is probably a better book to get right now. I think for people that are thinking of starting a business or starting a business, go to Justin Goodbread's website, Financially Simple. Look at what he has laid out there. And then, you know, if it looks too hard to do, maybe you aren't ready to start a business, honestly, you know, but this is the roadmap, I think, if people follow, that can help make them successful.
And I have so many of these stories. I had the opportunity to call somebody on December 31st. It was an individual whom I fell in love with as a client. I mean, just a great man and a great wife. I mean, just a great family, love them to death. 5 years ago, I didn't know them from Adam's House Cat. Had no clue who they were. They called me and they said, hey, we want to retire in 5 years. I'm like, okay. We have literally about $400,000 of cash, but we're used to making about $400,000 a year. Okay. That means we need to target between about $3 to $4 million is what we need to have in your accounts. You think we can pull it together in 5 years? We got to look at the numbers, and I said, we can do it, but it's going to hurt. You know, if we keep doing the same thing, the definition of insanity, expecting different results, is not going to work for us. So he said, yeah, we're willing to do this. So they engaged the firm. They engaged our company. We walked them through the financial planning process and the business planning process. The very first piece of advice I gave this individual was fire your office manager. Get rid of him. This wrong person for what we need to accomplish. It was his sister. Okay. His older sister. Right. So I'm sitting here telling you to fire your sister. And he's like, I don't know. He did. Fast forward through years of consulting, years of him being pliable, years of him moving through COVID. On December 31st, I called him. I said, hey, I need you and your bride. Y'all put me on speakerphone. He said, okay, cool. I said, y'all ready for New Year's? Absolutely. I said, let me give you the best year and the best news that we've given thus far to any client. What's that? I need you to sit down, because if I tell you this number, you're going to pass out. He said, okay. Today, you're worth about $5.2 million liquid net worth. When we started this process, you were making roughly about $400,000 and burning every bit of cash out of the company. We restructured your life. We restructured your company. We totally blew it up, put it back together. And today you can officially retire without selling your company. If you sell your company, you're going to pick up another $3 million, roughly. He was ecstatic. Now, is that the same for every client? No, that's always circumstance where people are stubborn, myself included. But if we have a good coach, somebody who's been down this path before, who can tell us the pitfalls, then we can achieve ultimately what we want to achieve oftentimes. God would not have put it in our heart to achieve something if we could not do it. I firmly believe that within my person. It's just a matter of having the right guide to help us get there.
Well, you certainly sound like a great guide, and I'm sure our audience is thrilled to hear about your advice, and we can't encourage them enough to check out your website and your services. It's been great having you on. We have to move to a commercial break, and we'll be right back with Justin Goodbread right after this commercial break. Thank you.